live. So let's get started here. Welcome to Meditation Secrets. We've got lots of exciting questions that you guys have submitted through the Facebook group and through direct messaging me. So without further ado, Rachel, I want to acknowledge you for being on here. I know we've got a few people that are going to be joining us here in just a moment. Let me see if you can let me know, does the sound, do you want to maybe type in the chat, or if you want to give me a thumbs up that you can hear that the sound is fine, let me know how that's coming along. Okay.
I can hear you.
Fantastic. Okay, great. At least we know that you're hearing us okay. And I think we'll have a little... So we're going to get started here. Hope you can see the meditation secrets. Here we go. Fantastic. Well, let's go ahead and jump in and get started here. Today we've got lots of great questions and answers here for you guys. And so the first person who submitted a question here, I just basically took them in the order that they were received. So the first person asks, and this is Holly, she says, I've been so unfocused lately in my meditations that I can't quiet my mind for some reason and focus on the unified field. So I just feel out of sorts, angry, and on edge. I guess I'm tired of struggling all the time, and it really makes me want to give up. I don't know what's wrong, but I'm so sad and depressed today, and I can't seem to shake it. I feel like if I feel this way, I'm doing something wrong. Any advice? We've got more people jumping in here. So we've got Clint joining us here from Evolving Mindsets. So excited to have him here, as well as with Rachel. Thank you for joining. It looks like his audio is just connecting. So anyhow, so Holly was asking, and she says here, I don't know what's wrong, but I'm so sad and depressed today. And I can't seem to shake it. I feel like if I feel this way, I'm doing something wrong. Any advice? So this is a very, very common issue with probably everyone, or if not 98% of meditators. All human beings have this period where sometimes you just don't feel focused, or you just don't seem connected, or you kind of are just kind of sad and mopey. I talked about this earlier in our other meditation secrets episodes, where I had one particular day where, oddly enough, instead of it just took like my not falling asleep in my bed. All I did was fall asleep on my sofa, and it happened to be a Sunday morning when I woke up and I realized, oh, I fell asleep on the sofa last night, and I didn't end up sleeping in my own bed. And then I noticed that I was kind of mopey that morning and kind of sad, and not necessarily frustrated, but more sad and depressed for no reason. And then I realized about an hour or two later that I hadn't done the PSMO, and it just took my not sleeping in my own bed, or a bed, for me to not remember to do the PSMO. And then a couple hours later, when I realized it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I realized just this change of not just so much the venue, but from instead of bed to sofa, that was the thing that was causing me to not do my meditation practice and do the PSMO and so forth. So there's a few things that are happening when this happens. So the unfocused part, you're a human being. So nothing is static inside your body. You're always, every second, every microsecond, your chemistry, your thoughts, your feelings, emotions, there's so much that's going on in your body that sometimes you're going to be really focused, but there are other times that it's really natural for you to not be focused. You say here, you can't quiet my mind for some reason and focus on the unified field. Well, that's really not true. You're sensing or you feel in that moment that you can't quiet your mind, but we all can quiet our mind. And it's just one breath away. And if there's anything that you take away from Meditation Secrets today, you're one breath away from being able to calm yourself down, to being able to calm and quiet your mind down so that you actually feel better. So the quickest thing is to do 3 as slow as you can, long, deep breaths. Better than 3 would be 10. And if you have extra time, because it takes a while to do 25 long, as slow as you can, deep breaths, but that would be optimal for you to do 25 as slow as you can, long, slow, deep breaths where you're inhaling to a count of 8, then you hold as long as you can. If you want to do box breathing, you would do inhale 8, hold 8, exhale 8, hold 8. We've done this before on Meditation Secrets, so maybe I'll do a recording of just doing box breathing. Some people like to be guided through that process, but the reality is, as long as you're inhaling as slowly as you can, whether it's a count of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10, and then you hold for as long as you can without putting pressure and without, making yourself turn purple or blue because you're holding it for way too long. But just when you feel that you can't anymore, then exhale as slowly as you can. And just count so that you have an idea of time, and then you hold at the bottom. Just doing that will quiet your mind. That will calm your mind first, and then what automatically happens is that it calms your body too. So that's the first thing I would say, because it's going to calm your mind, calm your body, and at the same time, it's alkalizing your body, which is going to obviously help you feel much better. It's going to take whatever edginess that you're feeling, any nervousness that you're feeling, and you'll be giving up the struggle because your focus is now on your inner game. There is nothing that's wrong with you. You say here, I don't know what's wrong, but I'm so sad and depressed today, I can't seem to shake it. You can shake it. It's your ego that's thinking for you and saying, I can't seem to shake it, which is not true. You can shake it. It's just that breath away. So the moment you just decide, maybe you'll decide, I don't want to do 25 long, deep breaths. It's going to take too long. I don't want to do 10 long, deep breaths. Just do 3. Do 3 slow as you can, deep breaths. And then I would say after you do those 3 breaths, jump into the PSMO. That only takes you 3 minutes. You do the physiological sighs. Letting somebody else in. I'm doing the maniocular technique, saying physiological sighs. See how my brain's like skipping forward? See, you don't have to be perfect in life. You don't have to be perfect in everything that you do, because obviously I just gave you guys evidence that I'm not perfect. But all you do is physiological sighs. Babies do this. Everybody does this. You sometimes do this in your sleep. Now you can choose to do it on purpose. You're going to do 3 physiological sighs, or 3 sets of 3. So 2 quick inhales followed by a long exhale. That immediately sedates your brain, your mind, and the organ of your brain. It's like a tripwire. It's like a switch that's going to slow down your brain waves. And that's your hippocampus in the back. When you go, I'll exaggerate it by doing the out breath with the mouth, but it's like, and if you notice, children, you have a baby or you have a 6, 7, 8-year-old, when they've been doing, doing the ugly cry, they'll all of a sudden come to the point where they can't get enough oxygen, and they have so much carbon dioxide in their system that they have to offload it. So what do when they can't breathe anymore? They go, that's a physiological sigh. And that is nature's way of offloading carbon monoxide, because you have too much carbon dioxide inside, and it's sedating. Literally, the base of your brain is where you have your hippocampus, and that's why they then start to slow down with the ugly cry, and it becomes a more controllable cry where they can then take in oxygen and breathe, because they got to that point where they're crying so hard that they couldn't breathe anymore. And so now, as an adult, you're choosing to do it on purpose. So you do the 3 sets of 3 physiological sighs. We can do it all here together. First set. second set. That's your third set. Already you're starting to feel more calm. Now the next thing is the maniocular technique. And you're going 1, 2, your head is straight. You don't move your head, and all you do is you have your eyes follow all the way to the left, all the way to the right. You're relinking and resyncing your left and right hand side of the brain and crossing over the energies. And you're in essence removing any negative thoughts, feelings, or emotions you've had over the last 24 hours by doing this entire PSMO method, especially the maniocular technique, now that you're sedated. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, pause. You can even clap in the middle if you want. I do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, pause. That's the second set of 10. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, pause. That's 3 sets of 10. Okay? And it's neurosomatic when you're using both hands when you clap, because you're engaging the right and the left hemisphere of the brain in order for you to do that activity. So then the last part is, of course, your lymphatic flush, which always feels a little awkward when I do this on camera because I'm farther away from the mic and the sound changes a little, but I'm going to move this. Hopefully I don't have an epic fail and I don't fall a step back because there's a step down behind me. But basically with the lymphatic flush, you're doing multiple things. I'm not going to get into everything that you're benefiting and all the neurosomatics involved, but the bottom line is you're increasing your willpower by having your hands open and above your head for a count to 30. You're going to count to 120 twice. The alternative is you can put a 2-minute song, or if you have a 3-minute song, when you begin the PSMO, then the entire thing will take 3 minutes, and you just know that when the song is done, then you're done. But you're going to hold your hands open as wide. You're stretching your hands as much as you can. That increases willpower. And after 30 counts, you make a fist, which now switches it to increasing your testosterone levels, which is going to boost your energy and give you a sense of well-being, and you're going to be energized. And what you're doing is you just imagine a boxer. You see a boxer in a boxing ring, right? They're bouncing on the balls of their feet. They're not jumping. They're bouncing lightly on the balls of their feet. So as they bounce on the balls of their feet, what they're doing is you have lymph nodes basically under your armpits and under your groin are the 2 largest deposits of lymphatics that you have, which has to do with the regulation of your white stem cells and your lymphocytes in your body and your white blood cells, which is what helps you fight any kind of immune response. Anytime you have any kind of a foreign invader in your environment that you're inhaling germs, viruses, or bacteria, it's your lymph system that's the first line of defense in order to protect you from that. So as you've probably heard of lymphatic flushes, and so this third part is part of it is a lymphatic flush. So by bouncing on your feet, which if you have a rebounder or a trampoline, you get the same benefit in doing that. So for 2 counts of 120, for purposes of this video, I'm just going to do a count of 120 because you guys have the idea. And you guys have the video of the PSMO, or you can find it here on the YouTube channel. But you're going to stand up with your hands like this, and we're going to count to 120. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 94, 95, 97, 98, 99, 100, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. That's 120. So you notice that it gets your heart rate up. You notice that you feel happier. You notice that you feel energized. And now whatever negative thought, feeling, or emotion that you had that was a burden or that you were struggling with has dissipated in just 3 minutes. Okay, so I hope you guys like that and you're feeling better. We're going to move on to the next question. The other thing is to bring it back to the meditation, because now that you've basically taken control of your state. This is a state control method, the PSMO. It's a neurosomatic method, but you're taking control of your state, and now you're feeling good, you're energized, now you're focused, you don't have brain fog anymore. Now you can focus on your meditative practice, whatever your intention is, right? So just a little recap, because I know a lot of people benefit from having the formula step by step and actually seeing it in writing. So the formula, the first step is you're going to close your eyes. And when you close your eyes, step 2 is roll your eyeballs up so that you're looking towards your eyebrows, because your brain automatically goes into an alpha brainwave state when you bring it up to your eyebrows. It's impossible for you to not go into an alpha brainwave state when your eyes are rolled up, looking up towards your eyebrows, okay? So, and then the next thing that happens as you continue to relax is that you're going to immediately glide into theta. So you're slowing down your breath. So your thoughts are in your head. Okay, I'm going to slow down my breath. I'm going to slow down my heart rate. I'm going to slow down my brainwave. And you keep on saying, I'm going to slow down my breath, slow down my heart rate, slow down my brainwave. And then as you're focusing on slowing down your breath, slowing down your heart rate, slowing down your brainwave, you set your clear intention. As you guys know, your clear intention is you have a clear focus of an inward attention, because now you're inside your head. You're now starting to become no one, nobody, no thing, nowhere, no place, and no time. You don't have to worry about that whole list. You just focus on the breath. And in a very short time, it's different for everybody. For some people, it's like 10 seconds. For some people, it's a minute, 90 seconds. It's hard to tell because you don't have a good pulse on time oftentimes when we're meditating. But you will notice that as you're doing that, you don't really feel your arms. You really don't feel your body. You don't feel your legs. So your normal feeling of your body, now you just kind of feel more like you're in this void and this space, right? So you know that if you're not feeling your body, if you can't really feel your arms, because that's usually the first thing that I remember paying attention to and realizing is like, oh, I really don't feel my arms. It's like, okay, I must be slipping into theta. And then sometimes, not always, Alexa. Oh God, let me unplug her. I'm not going to argue with Alexa. Okay, so the thing I want to point out is like I remember once I knew how to distinguish the feeling of a theta state is you're not going to feel the shift every single time. You just know and trust that once you've had that happen, or you just, I used to feel like I haven't felt this for a long time now, because now I just go into theta and I'm like off to the races. The number one thing in meditation is to not have expectation of feeling the same thing every single time other than being relaxed and awake. In terms of body sensations, if you have an expectation of feeling the same thing each time, feeling energy, having a mystical, whatever you fill in the blank is, that is an impediment to you expanding your consciousness and to really knowing yourself, because now you're looking for that and you're trying to make that happen, as opposed to being in that open conscious awareness where now you're allowing things to come in. So with setting the intention of whether you're doing it for healing, whether you're doing it for a mystical experience, whether you're doing it to manifest something, you now have that calm, but awake state. Your mind is relaxed, your body is relaxed, and now you're in the void, you're in this space, you're in the realm that is not, you're the bigger aspect of you. You're not the limited body vessel of you. That's where everything can now happen. And then I don't have it written down here, but I would say that the next very important step is also to surrender, to let go, to allow. And that's where I've talked about before, the ARE. You are being in a state of allowing. So as you are, you're going to also use R as an acronym. A for accept, R to receive, and then E embrace. So in the meditation, you're allowing, you're accepting, you're receiving whatever it is that's going to come to you, which is always going to be good, and you're embracing it as it shows up. You don't try to get a better look. Anytime you effort or you try in meditation, whatever it is disappears. All of a sudden, that's like a hard stop. And now if you saw a geometrical pattern, if you saw colors, whatever you sensed or experienced, it's gone. So the trick is to, if that happens, you're like, okay, don't think of it as starting over again. You're not going to be able to pick up where you left off. You just have to move on and then just say, okay, now I know next time anything unfamiliar, unusual, cool to look at, something, maybe you're having, I've had unusual aromas like flowers and like cigars and smoke. And I'm like, no one smokes cigarettes around here or cigars or pipes or anything. So, but your senses, you might smell something, you might hear something, you might see something, you might taste. Yeah, for a while I was having medicine-y taste, which I haven't had that happen for a couple of years. But so whatever it is, you want to just be in that allowing state where you're just the observer of whatever it is that you're experiencing in that unlimited state that's you. Because you're not limited in that sense. When you're doing that, you're not limited to your body. So now it's the greatest aspect of you is what you're experiencing, which is the real you. And then you're using, when you come back from your meditation, you're using the organ of your body for the things that we need in this 3D world. Okay. And then the next thing is you're going to want to feel an elevated emotion. You choose. You're like, okay, now I'm going to feel more love than I've ever felt before. Maybe you don't even know how to do that. It doesn't matter. You just decide it. You declare it. You state it. You command it. You request it. You're like, I don't know how, but I'm feeling so much love. I'm choosing to feel more love than I've ever felt before. And you're just reveling in that energy of love. And you have so much gratitude. You have so much appreciation because you're in your practice. You're in that expanded consciousness. You are the one who's noticing all that's going on. You're using your free will to choose this experience and to accept, receive, and embrace any and all things that are going to come your way. Knowing that even when you come back from your meditation, that meditation is not really over. The results are not really over because it's always like a to be continued. You're always in that state of being. When you come back, you still benefit from that meditation. And now you're expecting, knowing that you have, surprises, signs, symbols, synchronicity, things that you know that are coming your way because you collapse the waveforms of energy. Which brings me to the next point. I actually wrote these down because I wanted you guys to see it in writing. I didn't want to just be talking it. So energy and mass are the same thing. So why am I talking about energy and mass being the same thing? Because in meditation, our bodies are mass. This card is mass. And if you're trying to heal something in your body, or you're trying to manifest a new job, a new business opportunity, whatever you're trying to manifest, it doesn't matter. That is matter. And those are particles that are moving at a certain rate and speed, but they're manifesting at a certain point in time where you're recognizing it in a certain state. When you go in meditation, those same particles, by you choosing to observe how they are and choosing to reform them in the way that you want, whatever it is that you want, you're now collapsing the energy of the matter of those particles, and you're turning them into entire waves of energy so that they can reorganize themselves. So that's why I'm bringing it up, that energy and mass are the same thing. So the only difference between the particles and the waveforms of energy and the new reorganization of the particles that you're wanting to manifest, which is your end result, is the environment in which they're in. So we've all heard saying that, you cannot find the solution to the problem at the same level of consciousness that the problem was created. If you have a problem, every problem comes with an infinite number of solutions to that problem or to that challenge. But if you're going to be stuck on the problem and at the energy of the problem, you're not going to get the answers. So to dissolve the problem, you have to slow down the energy, because as soon as you collapse the waveforms of energy, it turns into matter, it turns into particles. So I'm not going to get too technical here, but the bottom line is that's what you're doing when you're doing meditation. So in a more beta brainwave state where everything is as you're witnessing it in the now, you're slowing down the energy of you to rearrange that so that you turn those light waves and rearrange the particles into what it is that you want. Okay? And the environment is, you're changing from the 3D environment to the slower environment so that now whatever your target, dream, or goal is can now pop into your 3D existence. Okay? I already told you, when you slow down light, you produce things with mass. So I'm just going to show you the cards so that your eyes will read that and you'll remember this. Okay. The next question we have is from Sherry. And Sherry says, I'm curious if anyone has had their life turned upside down since doing Dr. Joe's meditations. I've been faithfully and happily doing 2 to 4 hours a day for a few months now. Everything is falling apart in my life. Wondering if anyone else has experienced this, feeling discouraged the past couple days. So I put the short answer here as entropy. So Dr. Joe talks about this. He talks about it not just in the week-long events, but he also talks about it in Becoming Supernatural. I'm going to take the music and I'm going to now stop it. So getting back to entropy, what happens is that so for example, like we talked about how the particles, as you observe the unwanted particles and they turn into waveforms of energy and reorganize into new particles, notice how the particles as they are is not what you want. So Sherry, whatever it is that you have that you're trying to manifest, that you're in the process of manifesting, you're in the process of creating, whether it's health or relationships or whatever it is that your focus is, guess what? Those particles, they have to come apart. That means that they need to be in essence, it's like they have to be destroyed. I almost feel like destroyed is kind of too strong a word. Really what you're doing is you're taking the particles apart. So this has to come apart so that the energy is released to turn into waveforms of energy, which is what you're doing very efficiently in meditation. And now you have to allow them to reorganize into the particles that you want. So you have to give this space and allowance for things to reorganize. So if there are issues with relationships, there are people that may fall away. I know that, I know Clint and I have talked about this before, as we move, we grow, we expand, we become more consciousness. We become more consciousness and we become more conscious of who and what it is that we are. There are people that start to fall away because they no longer resonate with us. So we don't seek them out and they don't seek us out as much too. Certain friendships may, something may happen where they just decide, you know what, let's agree to disagree. The bottom line is that things are changing because that's what you chose. You're using your free will to choose to be happier, to be higher vibration. And as people cannot resonate at the level of vibration that you're at, then you're going to come in contact with other people who are at the vibrational frequency that resonate with you and them. that you are now complementary, to each other. So the shortest answer is entropy. If you don't know what entropy is, I would encourage you to Google it, because as you type in the word entropy, that's basically programming it into your mind, and you're going to remember better what entropy actually means. But what I just explained to you about the particles coming apart, turning into waveforms of light, and then reorganizing, that is part of the process of entropy. Okay. The next person is Lola. And Lola says, this is a very common question too. What does it mean when the top of your head hurts during meditation? I don't have pain in all the meditations, only with Bowtech 4 and space-time meditation. So my quickest response to you is, it's all about the breath. Most of these things I could answer, it's all about the breath, but right in this particular case, it has to do with the mechanics of the breath and how long you're holding your breath and with how much pressure. Because in Dr. Joe's guided meditations, he does tell you to push the energy up into your brain, which you're going to use your conscious awareness as it's in your first energy center, and you're bringing it up. You're bringing your attention from your first to the second, to the third, to the fourth, to the fifth, to the sixth, to the seventh, to the eighth. You're also bringing the breath up in addition to your spinal fluid going up to the top of your head. If you hold your breath too long, or you're forcing the holding of your breath and you're pushing too much, you're using too much force to put that energy up, you can get a headache. It's not uncommon for people. I remember, because you want to heal quick. You're so overzealous. I remember myself, after I got hit by a bus, an Orange County Transit Authority bus. First of all, the only time I had pain relief was when I was in meditation. And so I was very encouraged to do meditation 2, 3, 4 times a day, because it was the only time I didn't experience pain. So I would do an hour and a half, 2-hour meditation at a time, just so I would not feel that pain. And so that I was also wanting to heal, obviously, as quickly as I could. And in doing so, you think more is better. And my little A personality type, it's like, if I can hold it to a count of 15, 25 would be better. And then I'm like turning purple and blue. And then of course, then it's like, oh my gosh, now on top of whatever pain I had, now I'm starting to feel like, oh my gosh, I've never had a headache before, but now I'm starting to get headaches. It's because I was holding my breath too long. I was putting two things. I was holding my breath too long, trying too hard. The worst thing was the trying part, more so than the actual breath itself. The other thing I was doing, which probably for the better part of a year, I didn't realize I was even doing till one day it dawned on me. And I'm going to emphasize this because there's some of you that are probably doing this and you're totally unaware because your entire body is relaxed except this one organ, which I was guilty of this. And I still managed to heal despite that. So don't beat yourself up. But I remember the day that I realized, oh my gosh, I'm relaxed head to toe. I'm having these mystical experiences where everything, but I'm holding so much stress and tension in my tongue. Yes, you heard me right, in my tongue. And you're like, well, how are you doing that? Well before I started meditating with Dr. Joe, I had other mentors that taught meditation and so forth. One of the things that I was taught was the Bhagda is you're going to take your tongue, the tip of your tongue, and you're going to want to put it on the roof of your mouth in your palate. Depending on the type of meditation you're doing, you do it either behind your front teeth. There's like a little pressure point there. You do it in the middle of your palate or right at the high point of your palate, which is when I did Dr. Joe's, I would always use that spot. But then I was pushing with the tip of my tongue so hard that guess what was happening? Not only was it giving me a bit of a headache, but my tongue was starting to get like tired and it was starting to hurt because I was trying so freaking hard. And it's supposed to be just the whole point of having your tongue on the palate of your mouth and touching any one of those 3 acupressure points is to keep the connection, the circuit between the base of your spine up into your head. it's like a closed circuit. So the energy is flowing through your tongue, through the roof of your mouth, down your cerebral spinal fluid, down the back, and back up the front in this direction. But again, overachiever. I was trying so hard. All that to say is relax. It's just a light touch. You don't need to try that hard. Just having your tongue touch lightly on the roof of your mouth is more than sufficient. As you continue to move forward and get to know yourself and your body and use the organ of your system, then you can play around with different spots in the palate. And if you feel a little zingy spot, that's the best way I know how to describe it, is a little zingy. If you feel like a little energy, a little tingle, a little zap, a little tingling, zingy spot. You feel anything along that as you slowly just move your tongue on the roof, the palate of your mouth, then you may want to try a meditation where you keep your tongue just touching there the whole time. And if at some point you get so relaxed that it drops, doesn't matter. This is your practice. There's no rights or wrongs. You can practice keeping it the entire time, or just until, if you have a big, profound mystical experience where you're like off into other dimensions and whatnot, then you really don't have control of any shaking or your tongue or anything. You're gone. And when you come back and you're starting to become aware again that you're like starting to get back in your body again, then you'll go, oh, wow. And then you're usually if you're like me, you'll be so caught with that it just falls off your radar. It becomes irrelevant. It's your ego that wants to beat you up and say, oh, you see, you're such a loser. Your intention was to keep your tongue at the top of your palate. You're doing the Bhagda throughout your whole meditation. Look, you know what? I already told my ego, shut up, time out. You do as I say. I'm using you, you're not using me. So ego, time out, brain, do as I say, and then you're off to your meditative practice. I hope this makes sense to you guys. So Andre says, I've done the generous present moment meditation, and after that I felt very aware. In short time, I've experienced a great amount of rage. Is that normal? Okay, I'm so excited that someone is having this question, because this is an awesome digestion. That's exactly what's going on here, is because you did your meditative practice, you're getting a biological upgrade. Your ego's going to try and make it seem like you're doing something wrong. This isn't normal. I'm not supposed to have this. Shut up. Ego, time out. Do as I say. Brain, you're doing as I say. You are digesting an unresolved emotion that has been ricocheting in your body probably for years, which is why it's rage and not just anger. Because there's a difference between mad, being angry, being livid, and then having rage. Rage comes from anger after anger after anger after anger after anger for not just days or weeks or months. It comes from years, even decades of you having unexpressed, undigested, and resolved emotions. So guess what? This incredible amount of rage that's coming out is normal. So you can now stay as the observer and go, okay, I am angry. I am having a rage, but you know what? Calm yourself down. You might want to do the physiological sighs and be the noticer, be the observer. How hot are you feeling inside your body? What kind of words would you label that? And if you don't want to label it, maybe pay attention to the colors that you're seeing as you allow yourself to feel what you feel, hear what you hear, see and hear, what you smell, what you taste, what you sense. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised that it's not going to last very long. It's like this huge energy that because you're not pushing against it and you're not holding on to it, you're not repressing it, you're not depressing it, you're not suppressing it, like a sugar cube, it just turns into nothing. And then you go, wow, it's gone. You may even have memories of yourself at an earlier point in time. So I'm going to share, I wasn't going to do this, but I did get permission from Terry, one of our regular viewers here. She actually has something that's very tied to Andre's experience. And I'm going to share it with you guys. She said it was okay to share it with it publicly. So here is what she says. I'm going to show you here. I had an unusual energy experience while in Oahu with food poisoning. I want you to pay attention because it could be food poisoning. It could be anything outside that's triggering this. And you may think that it's just something that has nothing to do with your emotional and spiritual state of being. But I want you to pay attention to this because the universe will use whatever is in your environment to bring you to, we are supposed to expand as light bodies, as consciousness, okay? So she was on Oahu with food poisoning, and she had food poisoning pain. She said, I finally determined that I was resisting and pushing the extreme pain away. It's very aware. What resists persists. So I flipped that around, closed my eyes, and I accepted the pain. It could be rage. In this case, it was pain. Rage is suppressed pain, by the way. So I flipped that around, closed my eyes, and I accepted the pain. A most interesting thing happened. I saw several of my younger selves, about 2 or 3 years old, laughing and skipping around in my abdomen. I judged it as strange and purposely opened my eyes. I then chose to go back into the energy of the pain, and the same thing happened again. My little girls, interesting, multiple little girls, memories of herself as a little girl at various ages, showed up playing and having a good time inside of me. She goes, do you have any experience with this kind of interesting outcome? The pain did start to dissipate, and several hours later, it was gone. Classic textbook, and I'm saying classic textbook because as a neurosomatic metaphysician and practitioner, this is classic textbook, emotional digestion of past unsolved and unresolved feelings and emotions that are now being digested, and now they're purged through the body because there's no longer a resistance. So I think we've talked about in the past, and I want to kind of just give you a little 101 on how the human body works, because the memories, we've talked about how your left brain is where your body, your brain will actually file away a fragment of the memory. And then whatever the vibrational frequency, whatever the emotion, if you were pissed, if you were frightened, if you were shocked, that tension is going to be, you have a cell and a muscular memory that from the neck down, that tension is in your body, which is why in the PSMO, we do the lymphatic flush to shake that out. Okay. So part of what is happening is that as children, we had a mechanism for clearing all of this. But as adults, and you're probably, I don't know about you guys, but I know I'm guilty of doing this with my kids when my kids were, 4, 5, 6 years old. Once they start going to preschool, once they start going to kindergarten, we all see toddlers, and to see a 1, 2, 3, 4-year-old, it's normal to see them you see them bouncing on their feet, and oftentimes they'll go in circles. They're bouncing up and down. They usually, interestingly enough, will roll their eyes into their heads. And to the average onlooker, the child looks I hope this is not to offend, but they look moronic. They look like imbeciles. They look retarded. It looks dumb. And so, but it's acceptable for a 2, 3, 4-year-old to do that. It's not socially acceptable for anybody to do that in a classroom, let alone for an adult to do that. So I think I've demoed that for you, where it's like they're going blah, and their tongues are out, and they're literally shaking out whatever has happened in the last 24 hours, probably because they're kids, that usually no more than a few hours goes by. If they had a fight or an altercation with another kid, with a sibling, if they were frightened because their dog jumped them unexpectedly because a siren went by, or if a mother inadvertently or a father bumped them and now they fell and they hit their head someplace and now they're like, oh, crying and everything, they will literally go, ugh, and they'll shake it out because that is their instinctual behavior. They know instinctually that they have to shake it out of their body so that that negative memory doesn't get lodged in their brain. But us as parents, like I said, I was guilty of doing this. Once, little Johnny, little Sally, they're going into kindergarten, they're going into first grade, and they do that at home, you tell them, no, stop doing that. That's not appropriate behavior, or that's unacceptable behavior, or just cut it out, right? Because you don't want them to do it at home so that they don't do it at school or anywhere else for that matter, right? So then they stop doing that. They stop doing it not only at home, they stop doing it, period. So then you don't have a mechanism to release those emotions that are literally, the memory is stored in the head, and now you have that energy that's stuck in the body and there's no release. The dogs that I've had, I never reprimanded my dog for shaking it all out. No one would reprimand their cat, their dog, their bird. All animals do this. All mammals do this. In order to get rid of that emotional energy body so that it doesn't burden the body and cause disease, they literally shake it out. So a cat or a dog will walk across your living room, and for no apparent reason, maybe your neighbor slammed a door, somebody honked a horn, a siren went off, it startled the animal. And so you'll see that they'll shake it off. And I know I've been guilty of thinking it's like, oh, well, maybe they have a flea or something, or maybe they had an itch, or maybe they just got the chills. No, that is them instinctively taking care. It's like self-care. They're shaking that energy so it doesn't burden their physical body. So now, as adults, now that we're aware, that's what the PSMO, part of the PSMO is in the lymphatic flush. You're literally shaking it out as you bounce on the balls of your feet. You're shaking all that energy out so that you are back in integrity and you don't have to carry the repressed, the suppressed, and depressed unresolved emotions in your body. Some people suffer from night terrors because if you're not willing to deal with your stuff during the daytime, then your body will go, your brain is like, finally, they're relaxed. Now we can deal with it. So it'll bring those emotions up. And then people oftentimes will suffer night terrors because of that. The other thing that will happen is you'll be driving your car, because when you drive your car, oftentimes you drop into alpha state. And because you're not thinking of anything, maybe you're just happy and everything is all good. And you're like, I have a list of things to do, but now I'm just jamming to this song and just enjoying some really cool melody. And your brain goes, oh, they're not thinking about anything right now. They're calm, they're relaxed. They're kind of in that hypnagogic state because they're driving. They've been driving for 30 minutes. Now would be a good time. Let me bring up, let's see, this angry spat that you had with your mother or your father or with your wife or your husband or your sister or your whoever, or maybe your ex. You remember a fight that you had with them. Because you haven't resolved that, your brain will go, let's try and purge this now. And then you're driving and you're going, why am I thinking this is upsetting? Nope, I don't want to think about that. And what do? You repress it. So as you repress it, now that is like, oh, your brain goes, oh, darn, she's not ready to deal with this now. So, okay, we got to store this back in here. We got to depress this down. We got to suppress this energy. We'll have to deal with it later. but it's building up pressure inside your body. Make no mistakes. That's why people have panic attacks, anxiety attacks. So as you allow yourself to feel it, let it be revealed, and then just be the observer of it, like Terry, like what we just discussed now, then guess what? As you now have the tools to address this on a daily basis, just like you brush your teeth, you can brush your brain, right? The first part of brushing your brain, I'm going to encourage you, always brush your brain first with the PSMO, and then go into your meditative practice, because now you have an elevated vibrational energy where you're clear-minded, you're focused, you're energized, you've resolved and dissolved anything that you've had since the last time you did the PSMO, which was hopefully just no more than 24 hours before. Now you're ready to tackle and create whatever, because now that energy is available to create the wanted, and it doesn't have to, you don't have to have this bubbling rage or other, we call them abreactions and neurosomatics. Okay. If anybody has any questions that you want to ask questions along the way, just raise up your hand and you can ask any clarifications or any questions that you might have. Okay. Faith asks, what meditation do you recommend to manifest a new career? Anytime anybody asks what's the best meditation for XYZ, doesn't matter what it is. The best meditation is obviously the meditation that you do. But if you want to buy one of Dr. Joe's meditations, Bowtech, because you're blessing, it's blessing of the energy centers. I can think of no better meditation than one that is addressing each and every one of your energy centers. Dr. Joe talks about it all the time. I've never been to a week-long or an advanced follow-up that he doesn't do the blessing of the energy centers. It is like the foundational tool for meditators, because you're balancing your energy centers, and that is like, a house that's built on a solid foundation is going to prevail. But if it's not built on a solid foundation, it has a sandy, faulty foundation that's going to crumble. So blessing of the energy center, that is good for everything. That being said, the only other one that I would recommend separate from blessing of the energy centers, like one, I always start with blessing of the energy center. One, as you get bored or want to change it up, then get 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 8. Also breaking the habit of being yourself, because part of what you're doing at the beginning when you're starting to meditate is you're breaking the habit of who you have been, which was your ego and your brain that was the boss of you. And you're wanting to let that go and be better at identifying that, so that the all of you, which is infinite, that is some people call it your light side versus your shadow side. Some people call it your higher self. Some people call it your divine feminine or your divine masculine if you're a man. Whatever the case, doesn't matter what the labels are, but the infinite aspect of you that's not confined by your body is who you truly are. And that's who you're tapping into when you meditate. So Bowtech would be my first answer. My second answer would be breaking the habit of being yourself. If you go to Dr. Joe's website, there's 2 meditations that come in that packet. That was like the first meditation that I bought. Water Rising and Body Parts Meditation, which are phenomenal meditations. And he talks about it in the first 3 chapters of becoming supernatural. Okay. The next question is from Meng, and she says she's struggling with meditation and going deep. She's struggling with meditation and going deep in lately. Too many thoughts and things to do, and it's been hard to settle my mind. Would love to hear how you advise to deal with this. The PSMO. If for whatever reason you don't have time, maybe you're on I know 3 minutes isn't a lot of time, but when you're trying to do, I know when you're trying to get out the door in the morning and sometimes you're a little behind scheduled for whatever reason, or, something in the kitchen didn't work right, or a kid is giving you an extra hassle with putting the right shoes on, whatever the case might be, life happens. You know what? You can just do the PSMO in your mind's eye, or just do the physiological size and the maniocular technique, and then do the lymphatic flush in your head, and then jump into your meditation. The other thing is, like, the even shorter version of that is just do the physiological size, which is basically breath work, or just do 3 as slow as you can. And when I say as slow as you can, I don't care what anybody else's breath rate is. It's as slow as you can. You're going to inhale and then hold it for as long as you can without force. And then exhale as slowly as you can. And then hold as long as you can. It could be that when you exhale, maybe you can only hold it for a little bit. It doesn't matter. I said as long as you can. There's no rights or wrong. There's no meditation police around. Your ego, you tell it to go in timeout because you don't care what it says. You put ego timeout, brain, do as you say, and you just do those 3 as slow as you can, long, deep breaths, okay? Maria, I think that's how you say her name. She's asking, this is a great question too. Hello, I'm very interested in self-love, self-trust, and talking positively to myself. Good for you, Maria. What does it mean to love or be loving to yourself? So I'm going to give my answer to this question. And because we've got Clint, who is very much a man, and I'm a woman, I'm a girl, I want Maria for you to hear my answer, and then I want you to hear Clint's answer for the benefit of everyone who is watching this video. So when it comes to what it means to love or to be loving to yourself. So first of all, to me, to love means to really be in a place of accepting who I am without really any regard of whatever person, place, or thing thinks about me or says about me, whatever judgment, criticism, or blame that might be coming from any source, whether it's my upbringing, siblings, cousins, aunts. Actually, I'm pretty lucky my cousins and aunts aren't judgmental and stuff like that. But I'm just saying as a general rule of thumb, anything that's not you, anything that's outside of you. It could be even be society. It could be a religious group or a series of religious groups. God help you if you're in that situation, but it does happen. Or maybe it's an institution, or maybe it's a club or a workout group, whatever. None of that. Anything outside of you doesn't matter. So it's you recognizing that you are worthy, that you are love. So because you're being the energy of love that is expansive, that only thinks good thoughts towards yourself, that you would only want to do things that are for your benefit, that are only for your greater good. That's what it means to me to love. And then to be loving to myself is to allow myself, to give myself permission to want whatever it is that I want, to feel happy, to enjoy happiness, to enjoy joy, to enjoy laughter. Whether anybody approves, this is not about anything outside. Those are all just reflections and mirrors that are showing us things and aspects about ourselves, depending on what my expectations of them are, and vice versa. So to keep it simple, it's like being loving to yourself is like, you know what? Taking time for self-care, taking time to do this meditative practice, taking time to not beat yourself up, not judge yourself, not criticize yourself. If you're a girl, get a hand massage, a foot massage, get a manicure, a pedicure, do things that are fun with your friends, So that's what it means to me to love and to be loving towards yourself. Feed yourself. It sounds so elementary, but some people are so self-abusive in ignorance, where it's like you will sacrifice yourself. You will feed your kids. You will feed everybody that comes to your home. You'll make sure that everybody's taken care of at work to your own detriment and sacrificing yourself. You would never put that requirement on anybody in your home, anyone in your workplace, anyone in your church group, anyone in, you fill in the blank, but yet you're like the slave driver for yourself. It's like, that would be inhumane to do to another human being, but you're doing that to yourself. So pay attention. You are worthy. You are enough. What would be a loving thing to do is like feed yourself first and then take care of everybody else, or both and feed yourself and everybody else. You sit down with everybody else and enjoy the meal and enjoy the benefit of whatever it is. So be good to yourself as well as others. Clint, would you give us the divine masculine's version of what it means to love? Because I know that men think of love differently than women do. And what does it mean to you to be loving to yourself and to be love? Oh, can't hear you.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you. Fantastic.
Okay, beautiful. All right. So no, you stated it so well, but I'll put it into, like you said, words just to round out perspective or whatever, from the male side. I mean, everything you've said so far tonight has been just fantastic answers. But self-love to me it's a journey, right? And it starts somewhere and it goes through a lot of layers. I want to say that I really probably took that on myself several years ago, and I've still to yourself, like you said, allowing yourself and just going, you know what, I'm worth it, I can do this, this is worth it. You've got to want to feel good. You have to love yourself enough to believe that you can feel good, right? And so there's that compassionate part of self-love where you embrace yourself and you bring yourself in and you give yourself that love. But then what I found is there's also another side, and this is where I realized that love and pity are not the same thing, right? If you're feeling sorry for someone, you're essentially saying, I think it would be so nice if you could, or I see you in your pain, or I see you this. And that pity really does nothing. Feeling sorry for someone doesn't really do anything for them. Loving them is seeing them in their wholeness and all the potential they can be. So when we think about self-love, you got to turn that right back around and do that for yourself. And that can be really hard, right? So while we're talking about ease and compassion and allowance, you also kind of have to hold yourself accountable and say, look, you know what? I can do this meditation. I can focus. You know what? I do have this ability, and I'm looking for help and I'm looking for support. But you have to believe in yourself. Otherwise, when the help and support comes, if you don't believe in yourself, you're not even going to be able to take it in, right? So you have to hold yourself accountable and to a high standard. And to me, that's self-love. And in that practice of doing that, you one good way to develop that is, how are you loving other people? If you want to know if you have good love for yourself, how do you love other people? Are you very accepting of people? Not accepting of the wrong that they do, but accepting that they're human and that we have wrongs and that we can do things wrong. Or can you have that level of compassion? And then also, can you move beyond pity for other people and really love them and see them and their potential? If you can do this outwardly, then you can definitely do it inwardly as well.
I love that. Can you move beyond your pity for other people? That is a brilliant thing to bring to our awareness, because if you can move beyond your pity, you inadvertently, if you have pity for other people, you're implying that they don't have the capacity,
right,
to do for themselves, that they're incapable, that they're handicapped, that they're ill-equipped in some way. So that's actually not the most loving thing for you to do for another person, let alone for yourself. So
yep.
thank you. That was just exquisite, Clint. So thank you for sharing that insight. I put ULUCUT, which is a concept that I've been talking about for some time now on this YouTube channel. It's ULUCUT is unconditional love with unconditional communication with unconditional truth. And you are having no judgments, no criticism, no blame. It has to start with yourself. No judgment, no criticism, no blame, no rights or wrongs, nothing's taboo. Just complete grace and acceptance in this bubble of unconditional love. And you're having unconditional communication with yourself in unconditional truth. And then when you can start to embrace that for yourself in your quiet time, in your meditation, as you're starting to recognize the truth of who your ego really is and how you can use your ego instead of your ego using you, along with his cohort in crime, or her cohort in crime, which is the brain. Now you can use those two things, your ego and your brain, and you're able now to come into a friendship, a relationship with a significant other, whether it's your best friend, whether it's your spouse, your fiance, your partner, now you can create this unconditional love with unconditional communication and this unconditional truth. And because you are able to do this for yourself, you are able to give what you have to another. And then, of course, the law of reciprocity is they're going to want to do that back for you. And now you have this, I visualize it as like this bubble, this sphere of energy of unconditional love, unconditional communication, and unconditional truth that you both create in this sphere. And now the sky is the limit, because you have such a wonderful foundation, and it doesn't matter if somebody does something wrong. You don't assume the worst possibility for them. You think of, well, perhaps they were just having a bad day, or perhaps, something happened to trigger them. You're offering grace because you're able to do, because your cup is not empty, because you've offered yourself grace, you can now offer that grace to another. And guess what? That person, in gratitude and appreciation and in love with themselves and for you, are going to want to reciprocate that back. And you can even language this, where you can actually say, you know what, I want our friendship, I want our relationship to have unconditional love, unconditional communication with unconditional truth, where there are no rights or wrong. This is not about who's right. This is no rights, no wrongs, no judgment, no criticism, no blaming. There's the space to show up entirely as you are. And as I'm hearing you express and communicate unconditionally your truth and your place of being, I can enter into a greater realm of awareness and perspective and get to know you and myself better, because in you, I recognize myself. That's what namaste is. I see myself in you is part of what the word namaste means. So now you create this energy where the love now just starts to expand over time. And even though the two people are growing at different rates, because it's impossible, I tell people this all the time, it's impossible for two human beings to grow at the exact same rate. That's an unreasonable expectation. You don't even have that with identical twins. So that expectation, throw it out the door. But you can grow, and even though you're both growing and expanding, instead of growing apart, you can grow together in grace for each other. And now 10, 20, 30 years later, 40 years later, a whole lifetime later, you both could be unrecognizable from who you were a year ago, 2 years ago, 5, 10, 20 years ago, a lifetime ago. But you'll grow together because you allow the expansion of who you are individually and as a collective energy, as the relationship between you and that other person, that creates another entity, which affects everybody that you come in contact with. Okay. So the next person's question is Dawn, and Dawn says here, if I have more than one intention, do I concentrate on one at a time until that manifests? Or each time I meditate, can I choose a different one? What you recommend? What do you recommend? So I say it depends. My first recommendation and advice to you is, and of course you can do whatever you want, but I always say if you feel that you can concentrate or you can have multiple things in your meditation and you feel good with that, then listen to your intuition. That's what's right for you. If you feel that it's too overwhelming, or you feel that it's confusing, or it's any adjective or verb that is not on the positive vibrational scale, then I would say you might want to consider just doing one at a time. You could have a list of 5 things or 25 things, and you could, every time you meditate, you could do one at a time, or you can put the intention that your vibration is going to be so high that all of those things will manifest at once. But we're all wired differently. So honor yourself and pay attention to how it feels to you. If you want to change it up, where today I'm going to just focus on one thing, and maybe tomorrow you wake up and you're like, okay, I know that if I just have a high enough feeling of love, gratitude, and appreciation, that all these things will pop into place, then it all depends on you. This is your practice. So honor yourself, honor that feeling that you have inside. Okay. So that would be my answer, Dawn. The next one is Chris. what does it mean that my first energy center is buzzing and vibrating? And they put serious question. I thought that was pretty cool. Serious question. And I'm saying biological upgrade, hooray. That's just like the previous person who asked about the feeling of rage, Terry, who mentioned how she had that feeling of food poisoning and pain in her gut. And as she allowed herself to feel it, it was revealed. And she saw herself as a child, 2-3 years of age. It was like 2-3 little girls at a time. So this energy center, whether it's one, it's all of them, or any combination thereof, or maybe it's just your head, maybe it's just your 6th energy center or 6th and 7th, doesn't matter. The fact that you're having any kind of buzzing in your family, I guess your family of energy centers, it's basically a biological upgrade. So that means that the energy is moving effectively. You don't have stagnation in that energy center. So that's a phenomenal thing to have and to experience. What I would say is don't expect it each time, because as your body balances that out and it's vibrating, then the energy is going to move to someplace else. And just because it moves to someplace else doesn't mean that that energy center is no longer in alignment. It's already set. So it can move on to wherever the energy is needed most. So rejoice, because you have a biological upgrade. That's evidence of moving forward in your practice and having a biological upgrade. That being said, the research that we have shows that about 50% of the people feel nothing at all and still experience a biological upgrade. When we look at their EEGs, their EKGs, when we look at their blood work, we look at their telomere length, which is at the end of your DNA strands. When you look at all the different types of genetic markers, genetic expressions turning off for things that are unwanted or turning on for things that were needed, we see all of that change. And oftentimes the person will say, well, I wasn't even sure if I was doing the meditation right. And we're like, well, we measured it, so we know that you're obviously doing it right. So know that 50% of you, myself included, there are times that I don't feel anything. And there are other times that I feel all sorts of unbelievable things. And I know Clint is in the same boat too. And everybody that I've talked to, some people feel a lot of stuff. Other people don't feel anything at all. There's no limit, everything in between. Just because you don't feel something doesn't mean nothing's happening. Sometimes some of the bigger adjustments that are taking place in your body is when you think that nothing is happening. There's always something happening. And even when you're done with the meditation, there are still things that are being energy that's moving throughout your body. So that is very exciting that you have that biological upgrade. Our last question is from Stacy, and she asks, which meditation should I purchase on Dr. Joe's site to get started on healing the body while lying down? So I kind of answered this before, but I wanted to honor this because her question was about healing the body. And the truth of the matter is that when you really come down to the meditative practice, it doesn't matter which meditation you ultimately use. You're going to come to a point in time in your meditative practice where you're going to be able to, and we've talked about this before in this meditation secrets series, where you can have the sound of an air conditioner or the washing machine, or it could be the sound of dripping water from a fountain in your yard, or it could be the sound of the ocean because you're at the beach, or the stream of water by a creek, body of water that's close to where you live. Better yet, instead of the sounds of nature, it could be birds chirping outside of your bedroom window. It really could be, there's an infinite amount of things that it could be. You could pick whatever music you like with or without words, and you could just choose to apply the formula, do the breath, be in the formula where you're awake, but calm, and you're in that alpha brainwave state so that you go from alpha into theta. And now, whether you're sitting down, my favorite way to meditate is always sitting down because your spine is completely straight. And it seems like I've had more far out mystical experiences that are out of this world sitting up. I've had some laying down too, because Dr. Joe, he drills you with every modality. So he always starts us sitting down, then standing up, then laying down, then walking with your eyes closed, walking with your eyes opened. It doesn't matter. And then ultimately, the goal is that you would then take your meditative practice so that even when you're not doing a formal meditation, you're still in the awareness throughout your day, keeping yourself playing with your breath, getting yourself to be in that alpha, even theta state as you're moving around and doing things, which then you're doing what would be the equivalent of a walking meditation, but now you're kind of living in a meditative state. And then the more you practice that, you could be driving and meditating. You can't allow yourself to take off onto a mystical experience. So if you're practicing the breath, what I've had to do is like, because your body's so conditioned to leaving and having a mystical experience, and you'll be driving and all of a sudden things start to go dark and it wants to go. And so I'll go, no, 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 no. I'll say it out loud while I'm driving, because I'm like, I can't leave my body. I'm driving my car. So it's like, then I'll stop doing the breath. But that's just a testament to my body being so conditioned. It's just showing me that my body's going, okay, going into meditation, we're gonna take off. So again, it's your mindfulness practice, but just know that you can practice it while you're riding your bike. That's why sometimes you have certain athletes will say they'll have like the runner's high, or you hit the zone, whatever sport it is that you're doing. You could be, when you're swimming, because it's a very repetitive action, you hit that zone, and being in the water, it's a very meditative practice, especially when you hit that zone state. And then you can transcend what your body could normally do, which is the whole point of meditation. We can do extraordinary things and become supernatural. So I mentioned here, like I mentioned before, Bowtech, of course, breaking the habit. We're not going to repeat that, but I want to thank you all who submitted questions. We picked you from the meditation group. Do you guys have any other questions, comments, concerns, anything you want to say or share? If you had any kind of cool experiences in the last 7 days since our last class? Okay. Clint, can I find out if Evolving Mindsets is doing anything fun and exciting that perhaps our listeners and viewers might want to tap into? I know you have sometimes on Sunday, some Sunday morning goodies.
Yeah. No, so we've been trying to really just find the right formulation, the right formula for the audience. So when is a good time? So we played with Sunday morning, and it ended up we were trying to reach more of the East Coast audience so that they could have something morning, and there wasn't a lot of movement behind it. So decided to just kind of let that play out and see how it is. And then it was good timing though, because excuse me, there was a shift that occurred, and now we're building an app. So we're going to be able to do meditations right in the app. We've got great content that we're going in there. It's actually I've spent the whole day kind of creating framework and putting things together, and it's exciting time. So yeah, there are good things coming out. There's going to be that, and then more videos, more content. And as always, if there is something that someone's looking for, if there's like a sweet spot in time out there, you're just like, gosh, there's nothing in this at my time zone around this time, reach out and let us know. Between myself, Lily, and someone that's in the community, we're all really here to support. And I think that's what I love, Lillian, about what you do and answering these questions and taking this time. It's just to help pay that forward and put it out there, because we've all gone through these. We've all had questions like this. I mean, I'm reading through these questions, I'm like, yeah, I asked like at least 9 of these myself at some point. Like, what about this and what about that, and so we're here for you, and we love being here for you. I know you love being here for us. We love having you here. I've missed you so much, and your energy, you're just looking so fantastic. So thank you so much. Yeah, it's please stay dialed in. And if you want to, you can stop by Evolving Mindsets on Facebook, and I'll keep updates there. But you should be able to look for our app coming out probably somewhere in the next 2 to 4 weeks. Just depends on some of the development coding.
Awesome. Very exciting. I can't wait for that app to be out and available. So make sure you post to the Meditation Secrets group so that everybody has,
Will
access
do.
to that. And with that, I think there's nothing else other than we'll see you next Monday for continuing here our meditation secrets to success. And yeah, I remember when I first started with specifically reading Becoming Supernatural, and then I was really eager wanting to meet a Dr. Joe advanced student who had been to a week-long event. And I had as resourceful, I mean, my gosh, I've had guests that have been on Oprah, like quite a few of them that were on my radio show. So I have never had issue with getting in touch with people. And so, but I couldn't seem to find an advanced student or two that I could just pick their brain. And so that's why once I became an advanced student, I said, well, I want to be available because I know that I had a gazillion questions. I had a gazillion questions about a lot of these questions I had. And then I had a gazillion questions about the week-long event itself. What is it like? What can you expect? What was your experience? And, we're filled with all these questions and all these different possibilities. And I really didn't have a specific place to go where I could get those questions answered. So that's how this was all born. So thank you guys. As always, I love you all, my friends, my gems, and we will keep tuned in, tapped in, turned on to Meditation Secrets. And oh, by the way, if you haven't tuned into getting your copy of the Intuition Manifesto, I would encourage you. This is so tied to your meditative practice. You see the book back here. Let me show it to you here. I would encourage you to get the Intuition Manifesto because it will answer a lot of your questions. Of course, it will tune up your intuition, which we can always use more intuition more than ever now. There's so many things that are changing in our environment and are all across the world that the more we can be tuned into our intuition, where we know with certainty or clarity how to navigate our everyday life, you can only benefit from that. So that's it for now. So ciao for now, my friends and gems.